Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with VC Andrews. So, yep, he asked me to do another one of his videos. Today, it's the top 10 episodes of Disney's Owl House. Or in this case, the Owl House. You guys know this one, the 3-season show from Disney that, well, proved they could be woke sometimes. Actually, I think I remember actually sending him the recommendation. I think he was having trouble with some ideas, and I thought, you know, I might as well send him down the Owl Hole Rabbit House and see if he liked it or not, you know? I mean, considering this is the same guy who loves Hilda, which I can't blame him, I decided to return the favor, you know? I might recommend Amphibian to him next, but we'll see. Anyway, let's go check out his favorite episodes, huh? Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's rock and roll. Oh, you're just doing skits now.
Sit down, Disney audience. I'm not happy, Disney audience. Not happy. Ask me why. Okay, why? Why what? Be specific. Why are you unhappy? Your criticisms about Disney's recent works make me unhappy. Does a Disney fan not have the right to criticize something? Criticisms in themselves I can handle. What I can't handle is you all saying that the reason for Disney's movies sucking is because of their progressive direction. I mean, seriously, Ariel couldn't be black because she lives under the sea and the sun couldn't impact her skin color? Rachel Zegler can't be Snow White because she's Puerto Rican and thus doesn't have Snow White skin, even if she looks the part in just about every other way? Lightyear was ruined because of a lesbian romance plot that lasted 4 minutes tops? Hell, people were pissed just because the director of the new Star Wars film wasn't a white male. Listen, I can't argue that Disney's quality has not been very good for quite a long time. And I swear, this isn't going to be a big, long political rant video. I just cannot be silent about this any longer. The fact that people are accusing Disney of sucking only because they're inclusive and accepting just makes me sick to my stomach. Are you serious? Wow. Well, I'm here to prove to y'all today, once and for all, that Disney works can be both woke and entertaining. Please. And the proof I have for this is a wonderful animated series called The Owl House. It's about a 14-year-old Hispanic girl named Luz Nocita, who has an imagination and love for fantasy stronger than Walt Disney himself, but also has a love for weirdness on par with Ralph Bakshi that her peers and authority figures do not. So despite loving that she expresses herself, her mom decides that it's in the best interest of everyone involved for her to spend the summer at Camp Reality Check, probably run by the same people as the Smile Away Reformatory from Phineas and Ferb. But before she can depart for said camp, a miniature owl steals her Witch Azura book, and she chases after him into a parallel fantasy universe of witchcraft and demons, just like in her favorite books. Actually, strike that. Not so much like her favorite books, and a lot more like her own human world of being unaccepted. Yeah, thanks largely to their dictator, Emperor Bellos. This universe relies on Brave New World logic, and is assigned to perform only one type of magic in relatively dumb mannerisms and be segregated. Distinguished by her coven. The only one who has the right to practice all types of magic is Emperor Bellos himself. At least that's what he says the Titan says, who's the most powerful magical being in existence. Those who refuse to do just one kind of magic or keep it down to earth are referred to as wild witches, who end up in the conformatorium or jail. And one of the most infamous examples of this is Ida, a hot-blooded loose-cannon witch who the authorities have been after for years and failing miserably at catching. And after meeting Luz and she helps out her pet dog, Demon King, there you go, agrees to take her in as an apprentice. Along the way, Luz makes friends with other misfits and a rival out of the stereotypical mean girl Amity Blight, before slowly transitioning into a girlfriend relationship. But there are challenges too, like Ida's curse that turns her into a monster at unexpected times, Amity's control freak mom not wanting her daughter associating with outcasts, and her portals to the human world being destroyed. And while trying to get home, she finds that there may actually be some ulterior intentions behind all the shaming of diversity and doing more than what's socially expected. Like Hilda, I'd heard about the show when it came out, but it initially didn't catch my attention because it just didn't feel like anything special. Yeah, we've seen the whole human kid in fantasy world premise too many times to count, and I figured that the whole lesbian romance stuff was just greatly exaggerated, like most first gay Disney characters in Disney movies proved to be. But a combination of discovering it had mild similarities to Hilda and the Worst Witch, and finding that it received massive praise despite its woke themes, unlike most Disney works, it prompted me to check the show out, and like Hilda, I fell in love with this series almost immediately. even a little more than Hilda, not just because of its incredibly
Careful,
likable
Hilda might also
characters
get you there.
and great social commentaries, but for proving that Disney works can be both woke and artistically good, proving that wokeness itself is not destroying Hollywood.
In your face!
But still, which ones are the best of the best? It was super hard to pick out the best here, because almost every episode of this series is pretty good at worst. What's more, a lot of the series follows a linear story, which makes it a bit harder for a top 10 comparison. But I love the show so freaking much, I decided to take on the challenge. I'm just pointing this out because I'm going to be jumping around a lot with this series, and heads up, I'm going to go into major
3
spoilers
seasons,
for this
12
show
episodes?
because, I'm
Could be a
sorry,
lot.
but recapping shows without spoilers is just no fun. So if you haven't
True.
seen the show yet and want to be surprised, you should probably not watch this video. But if you have seen the series or don't mind massive spoilers, let's visit the living proof of artistically significant wokeness from Disney as we take a look at the top 10 episodes of Owl House.
Let's off to the Owl House of the Boiling Owls. Shall we begin? First
Number
up,
10.
Number 10. A Lying Witch.
Witches Before Wizards.
Okay.
This is only the second episode, so there's no deep character explorations here, but it does still provide a message that ties very nicely to the series' theme on how traditionalism isn't all it's cracked up to be, plus another unique but valid message that we'll discuss later. So after a week or so in the demon realm, Luz has mostly been an unpaid delivery girl for Ida's potion business and has barely learned any magic at all. Plus, this whole
Well, to
place
be
just
fair,
doesn't seem like the traditional
let it
fantasy
explain
realms in her
itself.
books that she's been so enamored with, and Luz is starting to get cold feet about this whole situation. Until one of her delivery recipients turns out to be a completely traditional wizard named Abergast, who reveals that Luz is the chosen one prophesized as the only one who can pull the celestial staff that will free the Boiling Isles from an ancient evil. And sends her off on an equally cliched quest to find the staff and prove her worth. But Ida smells something
Yeah,
wrong in
hold up.
Bonesborough with all this. So yeah, this series as a whole provides such a great commentary on the issues with discrimination and societal discrimination using magic, but mostly does so with its own lores and concepts. This episode is neat how it shows that traditionalism isn't always a good thing with, well, traditional magic concepts. Just in the very beginning, we get one of my favorite gags in the show. Luz finds what she thinks is her witch apprentice outfit, only for Ida to reveal that it's just a bathrobe with a super dirty traffic cone. Frickin' brilliant. There's also a lot of other great bait switch gags to go with it.
I sell only the finest homemade elixirs and potions.
Snake oil.
No one wants an unoiled snake. Now follow me.
Okay.
What has 4 hooves and wants to buy a potion?
Don't look down.
This guy.
My eyes are down here.
And regarding the quest that Luz goes on itself,
Yeah, let me
you
know.
thought the bearded wizard and a
Leave
pointed
your
hat with
expectations
the
at the
chosen one
door.
prophecy was
You'll be
cliched.
surprised a
That's
lot.
just the beginning. On said quest, Luz encounters a young, resentful young warrior who wanted to be the chosen one himself due to the ancient evil killing his family, and of course is a fan service character.
Yep.
Do you need a cape?
Nah, I think
You
I'm
can
good.
use my shirt.
There we go.
Yes, I need a cape.
Yeah, this episode was definitely
Yeah,
an early
there's a
one.
reason Luz is
There's
bi,
also the
by the way.
Tollbridge Guardian, whose Fia is solving a super easy riddle that's surprisingly even easier than the ones in Dora the Explorer, the super sweet fairy princess, and of course all the accessories that come with your typical chosen one quest. And thankfully, an exact
So,
finishes
where's
the
the
quest
big
by finding the
twist?
staff and thus saves the...
Oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, cue the too good to be true cliche, as
Yep.
it turns out this whole adventure was a ruse set up by one of Ida's competitors to trap Luz's bait to lure Ida to him as well as her doom, thus wiping out the competition. Man, Disney's own methods of dealing with
Pretty much.
competitors haven't been much more ethical either. And in a pretty epic finale, Outcast tries to stop Luz from saving Ida by tempting her with this world full of beings that respect her as the chosen one. And she admits it would be a great life.
But it's not real.
And it's all topped off with Adagast being stabbed in the head, which only shrinks him down to harmless size since I guess it's still too early for a death in the series for a kid's show. Oh wait, no it's not.
There we go.
It's not a violent one. Best bait and switch gag in the series, honestly.
Damn.
And it's all topped off with a great message on how everyone wants to be special, but if you waste your life waiting around for some cliched prophecy to tell you that, you may never accomplish anything special. So it's
True.
better to just go out and do great things rather than wait to be prophesized to do them. Nice
Where's
stab
Shia
at an
LaBeouf? Do it.
overused
Says it.
cliche.
Do
But
it!
Trust
Make
me,
your dreams
Luz
come true.
definitely proves
You
she's
know what
special
that
in the
means?
series more than any stupid chosen one prophecy could ever predict. Even before getting to the deeper story of the series, this episode still manages to deliver the
Season
show's
1, by the
message
way.
very early on in a pretty original and fun way.
Next up,
Number 9.
off school.
Them's the breaks, kid. So one thing I haven't mentioned yet is Ida had an ex-boyfriend whom she had a pretty good bond with, but when the curse proved to be too much to deal with, he left and joined a coven. And to paraphrase, is kind of in this resistance against the oppression of the Boiling Isles, but has avoided Ida for her safety because of this, even pretending to have to be an asshole to her as a front for being brainwashed later on. But overall, these two had a great connection in the show. Anyway, since Luz is still very homesick, Ida decides to cheer her up with the story of how she first met Reigns. So another thing to mention is,
flashback.
Ida has an older sister who's after her in the first season to get her to join a coven, but eventually makes peace with her at the end of season 1, which we'll discuss later. But anyway, they were super close as kids and eager to try out for the Emperor's coven, but Principal Faust is fed up with her delinquent antics and says that unless she redeems herself by winning him, the school, a blue ribbon in a big academic event, her ass is out of his school. But despite dreading being separated from her sister, Ida has trouble getting her shit together until she meets Reigns. While the story isn't integral to the main plot, it is nice to get a more detailed look at these characters in their younger days, especially Ida's basically a girl version of Bart Simpson.
Fill the detention pit with green gelatin.
It was his birthday. He liked it.
Anytime you feel the urge to cause chaos, just squeeze.
Yikes.
And let's be honest, that's just what we were expecting a teenage version of Ida to be like. But as to
be
the
known
other
in the
characters,
show,
like
why not?
Lilith, a bookworm who wants to play by the rules, Amy's mom Odelia is a non-charming bitchy schoolgirl, and Principal Bump, who's only vice principal at the time, is... Wait, he's actually pretty much the exact opposite of himself, being timid, weak-willed, but also much more interested in helping his students succeed, especially when his reputation is on the line with it. But the bigger strength of this episode comes from seeing how Reigns and Ida first meet, and their chemistry with each other's kids is honestly just as charming and believable as when they're adults. And even better, it doesn't feel forced in like a lot of love at first sight Disney scenarios.
It stinks, but I've got a sister at Hexside. She's kind of my only friend. It'd be a bummer if that got taken away.
Well, you won't have to worry about that. After the closing ceremony, we're home free.
You'd really believe these are ones who would naturally fall for each other based on how they interact, especially when Reigns covers Ida's ass, even literally at one point during the activities. Shows how love at first sight scenarios really can work with the right execution. And on a slightly less relevant note, it is admirable that the only reason Ida is putting any effort into this at all is to stay with her sister. I know they get better, but trust me, the relationship these two have for most of season 1 is not pretty, to say the least. And it's sweet that there was a time that she was the one person she would put in any effort for. And it's all topped off with an epic finale where the Boiling Isles equivalent of the Secretary of Education, who's honestly one of the funniest minor characters in the series.
The failures will be ground into mulch for my garden. Illegal?
Pretty
We'll see
much
about that, won't we, children?
Anyway, she says that the activities the school offered weren't challenging enough, and the grand finale is going to be a game of covens versus wild witches. And big shock, Reigns and Ida are on their respective opposite teams. How's that for irony? And when they're the last two contestants, they finish with an epic showdown of a fist bump. But for not finishing the game, everyone in the school is going to be poisoned.
Again?
That's illegal too?
Pretty much.
Fine.
Stop.
Instead, no one gets a ribbon this year. Everyone loses.
But thankfully, she does promise to recommend to Faust that both Ida and Bump remain at Hexside, and seeing her position of power, well, they're there to stay, allowing Rain and Ida's relationship to bloom even more. Again, this episode may not be crucial to the series, but it is neat to see the younger versions of most of these characters, and see that Reigns and Ida's chemistry has been awesome right from the start.
In a way. And actually, it's always cool to see, like, what the mentors were like back in the day. And the fact that she kind of is like Bart, just like, I'm not worried about it. Oh, and yeah, and the whole sister thing. I'll bring it up more in case he doesn't, but a little spoiler alert. There actually is a reason that she's the owl beast. Let's just say, sister really jealous. That's all I'm gonna say, and you can figure it out from there. Anyway,
Number 8.
Time trap.
Elsewhere and Elsewhen. Early in Season 2, Luz discovered that there was another human who had been transported to the Boiling Isles named Philip Wittebane back in the 1700s, and naturally tries to research the hell out of him to figure out how he got back home. But in this episode, after her research from the previous episodes haven't had much results, Luz decides the best strategy is to fire up the flux capacitor and just go ask Philip himself in the past, with Lilith tagging along to get a more hands-on approach for her new historian job. So I think you can already see why this episode is one of my favorites. Up to now, the series have been building up Philip Whittabane big time, always portraying him as a shadow puppet getting closer and closer to completing a portal with each visual diary entry Luz and the gang had listened to try and emulate. And this is the one where we finally get to meet him in all its glory that the series had been building up, which we'll discuss after going into the B-plot. So in the previous episode, we had finally got to meet Ida and Lilith's mom, which involved her being suckered by a con artist into buying a cure for her daughter's curse. But this is the episode where we finally get to meet her dad, which Ida isn't nearly as excited about since, as we'll soon see in a higher entry, she blinded him in one eye as the Owl Beast when she was a kid and has avoided him out of shame ever since. And after some comedically failed attempts to avoid facing up to her actions...
Apologies, dearest mother. Dearest sister has flown the dearest coop.
Does she seriously think I'm buying that? Just let her have this.
She finds that she can't fight Destiny and has to face her old man's furious wrath for...
I can't chase you anymore.
Then stop! I've ruined your life. Have you even been able to carve a new talisman since I attacked you?
It's a palistrum seed. My palisman-making days are over, but I've been helping the Bat Queen replenish her forests, so someone new can learn the trade. Let the past stay in the past, Witchlet. It's okay to move on.
A little cliched and predictable, but still very well executed, making for a very nice make-peace scene with Ida and her dad. And now let's get into the main episode's plot, after we talk about some great gags here and there.
Oh, I wish I could stay longer, but I must be off on my next adventure.
Who was that?
Flora Desplora.
I have questions about that name.
Looks better than the last time Disney took on a Nickelodeon show. Okay, so let's get into what you're all waiting for here.
Right, Philip.
So at long last, Luz meets Philip, earning his respect after she saves him from some thugs, and reveals that she knows how to find this mysterious being called the Collector that he mentioned in his diary entry, though not how that would help him get home. Anyway, the two finally have quite a bit in common. They're both treated as outcasts in this world as well as their own. Their first bit of magic discovery was a light spell, and they're both just lovable dorks. Yeah, I gotta say, it was pretty well worth the wait to finally meet the only other human here, and they finally reached the door to the Collector's lair that seems mostly solved already. But then why would...
Philip, why
have you been here before?
I needed a sacrifice.
Uh-oh.
You two were easier to trick than Bluefang. Hopefully you and Aunt Gertrude can last longer.
But they overcome the beast with love thanks to Luz remembering Lilith's history lecture on these creatures, give Philip a well-deserved payback, head home, and get over their disappointment from their hero turning out to be a narcissistic asshole with some help from Ida. But still, what a twist! The one human being who seemed to be Luz's only chance of getting back home turned out to be just as cruel as the whole coven system set up for the Boiling Isles. I honestly didn't suspect that.
Luz tried to keep
twist,
resisting, Philip just accepted.
Ida and her dad and some great comedy makes for a great episode indeed. Although there is one question this episode leaves unanswered about the Collector.
What kind of jerk puts "the" in front of their name anyway?
Yeah, that means a lot coming from the Owl Lady. But my question was, if Philip didn't need the Collector for his portal, then what did he want him for?
Keep an eye out for that one.
Number 7.
Plot there, but anyway, 7 up.
Yesterday's Lie. So you may be wondering how Luz's mom had been reacting to her daughter being missing for several months. Well, she actually hadn't noticed because an evil clone of Luz had been living in her place in the human realm, which the audience finds out somewhat early on, but Luz herself finds out only in this episode, where she finds a way to send her spirit back to the human realm so she can let her mom know what's going on, only to find her evil doppelganger in her place. Only one catch. She's not evil at all. She reveals that her name is V, and she's a basilisk.
Not the snake one, by the way. Shapeshifter, basically.
No, not the kind that attacks Muggle-born witches. But these are actually an extinct species that have been resurrected in order to be lab mice for Bellows, who's been conducting several magic draining spells for some reason, and V has lived a kidnapped ET/11 from Stranger Things-like existence for most of her life, but escaped, and when she noticed that Luz had come from the human realm, she decided to go back to said universe in her place to live a normal life. And Luz decides that she can continue to stay there until she comes back so her mom won't worry. But now she's out of magic, and they have to find more somehow for her to keep the illusion. So talk about another big twist. It may not be as epic as the one with Philip, but still, I mean, who wasn't expecting this clone of Luz to have evil intentions? Like maybe she was a spy of Bellows' set a trap for Luz's mom as bait or something, or maybe she'd been sent by Amity's bitchy mom, who for the record had tried to kill Luz right after she had gotten her temporarily expelled for dragging Amity down. But nope, she was just a tragic outcast who wanted a normal life. So as I'm sure you've guessed, this episode is a nice homage to government scientists after supernatural entity movies, not just with E.T. or Stranger Things, but also with Splash. Yeah, Luz and Fee's search for magic leads them to find this nerd based on Eugene Levy's role in said movie that's actually discovered the existence of witches and demons and is trying to capture them.
And they're all sent from Mars to harvest human teeth to power their time machine.
Teeth?
I'll expose your vile plans on YouTube and finally get my account verified.
Yeah, I definitely wish we got more on this guy in the show than we did. And on a side note,
he sounds like a conspiracy YouTuber.
Not only does her design look like something out of Hilda or Studio Ghibli, but she's just so sweet and likable, which makes her tragic life all the more sad and more understandable why she'd want to pull an evil, or rather desperate, doppelganger switch on Luz.
You and I are not the same. You had a mom that loved you, a home, a life. You had it good, and you still wanted to run away. I didn't have a choice.
And of course, there's Luz's mom, Camilla, finding out the truth. So when the real Luz reveals the truth to her, she of course thinks she's messing with her, but plays along for the sake of speaking her daughter's lingo. But when she finds out it is the truth, she's naturally shocked as hell. But of course isn't going to let this creep dissect her fake daughter, and shows that she can be almost as much of a badass as Johanna when someone she loves is in trouble. So while Camilla's happy to let V still stay with her, she's understandably less than happy that her daughter's trapped in a place frickin' called the Demon Realm, and she may never see her
Not
again.
Demon Realm, Boing Isles.
Nor does she take kindly to the fact that Luz initially willingly stayed there.
Were you trying to live out some witch fantasy? Did you hate living with me that much?
Mama, no!
So when it's time for her to go back, her mom makes her promise something.
When you come home, promise you'll stay here. Promise me, Luz. Please.
Okay, Mom. I promise.
What an episode. We learn who's the clone living in Luz's place, Luz's mom finds out the truth, we get a lot of fun government versus sci-fi movie references. What else could you ask for? How about that learning Ida doesn't have the best reputation in the human realm due to her black magic antics?
Wow.
But only question is Luz's promise one she can keep? Well, it won't be easy considering. Well, let's get to the next round for more details.
Right. Don't spoil it yet. We still got more.
Number 6. Knock, knocking on Hootie's door. This episode is a milestone for two things, which we'll talk about in a second. Everyone in the Owl House is down. King's stressed because he doesn't know what kind of demon he is or anything else about his family. Ida's overworking herself and refusing to sleep to be ready to protect her loved ones from whatever evil Bellows has up his sleeve. Luz has no clue how to ask Amity out. Build a new portal to the human realm, and Hootie's starting to feel unappreciated. So on Lilith's encouragement, he decides to prove his worth by solving all his friends' problems, two of which again lead to milestones for the show. Dealing he does with King, whose attempt to discover what kind of demon he is proves unsuccessful, further lowering his self-esteem. But with Ida, he spikes Cookies with a sleeping spell to get her to rest. Unfortunately, the spell he selected also intensifies the victim's dreams, which takes Ida back to some of the most painful experiences she's had with the curse, such as blinding her dad in one eye like we mentioned earlier, or when Reeves broke up with her when the curse proved to be too high maintenance for him to deal with. This is cool as it not only gives Ida some more backstory and shows part of the reason why she's so cynical and cranky, but it also leads to Ida finally confronting this demon that's ruined her life for so many years, and gives us an equally epic showdown that accomplishes honestly nothing. So, Ida tries a different approach.
Listen, neither of us want to be here, but we are, and there's no changing that. If we can't accept each other, this nightmare will never end. So what do you say? Truce? For now?
And it works, as the Owl Beast decides to give Ida the option to transform into a humanoid superhero-like version of himself at her own free will. She's cool with that. You know,
it does look pretty dope.
If done that in their dreams with Nicolas Cage, his most recent movie probably wouldn't have ended so depressingly. And yes, this is also the episode where Amity and Luz declare their love for each other. So to help Luz ask Amity out, he kidnaps her and forces the two to go through probably the most over-the-top tunnel of love ever built. And this leads to an equally hilarious sequence where Luz is worried that Amity will find all of this super dorky, and of course her obvious attempts to keep Amity from seeing all this ultimately make her look even more dorky and pathetic, and every second of this is a joy to watch. But this saddens Amity, who clearly wishes that Luz would be more open about her feelings for her, but of course neither will admit that.
Yeah, this was stupid. I mean, us? Dating? That's stupid, right?
This naturally breaks Hootie's heart, and he has a complete breakdown that's surprisingly even more over the top than his tunnel of love. So, the only way to calm him down, and more importantly keep the damage from causing Ida's insurance rates to skyrocket, is to convince Hootie that he did make a difference for the better. And the only way to do that is to ask the question fans have been waiting to hear for a very long time.
Do you want to go out with me? Oh, I was so ready. I'm sorry, you can say it. Amity, do you want to go out with me? Yes! Okay!
Talk about an awesome episode. Not only did it give us the moment the show had been building up for so long, but also gave us a satisfying resolution to the plot issue with Ida's curse, both of which by showing in a comedic, dramatic, and heartfelt manner that running from your problems will very rarely solve them. Sometimes you just have to confront them face to face, and you'll be pretty surprised by the results. Though it's too bad he never learned about his family.
I beg your pardon. When you see this finds its way to King Clothorn.
Oh my gosh, a bug!
Hootie!
Hope that was junk mail!
The episode this leads to is not on the list, unfortunately, but I'll briefly discuss it during my number 2 spot.
Again, we still got a couple
more.
Number
5.
Do I want to know?
Enchanting Grom Frights. This episode is awesome not only for basically being Owl House's version of the classic Hilda episode, The Nightmare Spirit, but also was a very big stepping stone towards Luz and Amity's romance. So Grom Night's coming up at Hexside, aka the Demon Realm version of Prom, and Amity's been named Grom Queen. So why isn't she more psyched about it? Because Grom Queen is called so because they're the ones who have to battle a terrifying monster lurking beneath the school on said night to keep him from attacking the city, which is no easy task because he's able to take on the form of your greatest fears. I guess he's kind of like a traditional version of the Maras from Hilda. And wait, they have students keep this thing that could kill or traumatize people for life at bay? Yeah, I kind of see why Hexside doesn't have a school guidance counselor. The stress of past Grom Queens probably required a therapist outside the school's budget, and she can't get out of it unless another student willingly takes her place. And Luz does, despite Ida's objections. So yeah, this episode was definitely one of the biggest steps towards Luz and Amity's feelings for each other. By this point in the series, the two weren't really rivals anymore, but more like not so close acquaintances. But this is the first time they really start to show true legit feelings for each other. Hell, even if these two were a full-on couple now, that would still be an admirable move on Luz's part. And we can tell that Amity is really grateful towards Luz and really wants her crush, very semi-decent acquaintance to get through this okay, and even tries to help coach her for it with some help from her prankster siblings. And there's some good laughs to go with it, like some of Luz's fears are on like trolls, cats possessed by human souls, and milk because she's lactose intolerant. This line also cracked me up.
Want to say our greatest fears? On 3. 1, 2... being alone forever.
Being stuck with you forever.
Ooh. Simple, but still chuckle-worthy. We also have King attempting stand-up comedy at Grom, which doesn't go much better than SpongeBob or Lance Barton.
Yes, she is. There she goes. Folks, she's battling the thing, and,
bring back the funny kid!
And when it's time for Luz to take on Grom itself, it starts out pretty smoothly. That is until we see what Luz's true greatest fear is.
What is this terrible place? This isn't camp.
Mama.
Have you been here all these weeks?
I can explain.
Mija, have you been lying to me?
Focus!
Oh boy. And I thought Hilda's greatest fear of never being accepted by Dave and Frida was terrifying. And ultimately, Luz can't face it on her own, but Amity's decided to nut up and help her girlfriend, girl from the human realm acquaintance.
Come on, it's girlfriend at this point as well.
Torment her instead. But Luz won't stand for that, and through the power of dance, the two defeat Grom once and for all, and are treated more like prom queens than Grom queens by the rest of the school. By the way, what was Amity's biggest fear? Being rejected for Grom by...
Oh, it's not important.
Let me guess. Aw, Luz.
As great as the episode where they actually declare their love for each other is, this episode that confirms their love
that's
for
a
the
definite
audience
tease
just left a little
there.
more of an impact thanks to its twisted Pennywise Mara-like villain, the power of dance to defeat it, and some other pretty effective emotional moments, all leading to one Grom Night that's probably going to be prominently featured in Hexide's yearbook that year.
Yeah, you gotta admit, the love story between these two, you know they teased it as much as they could, but I guess by season 2 they realized, okay, they have we can't tease it anymore, we gotta get this thing rolling. I mean, and the fact they actually put that episode along the same side as, you know, Ida getting that upgrade, because, wow. But, I can appreciate the style of Ida just fully accepting that thing. The Owl Beast, I mean. You gotta admit it, you gotta love it. Well, we're halfway through. Time for Final 4. So far, no 3 episodes. Or Season 3. Shall we?
Number 4. Agoniva Witch / Young Blood, Young Souls.
Double?
This is the Season 1 finale, and quite an awesome display of the platonic love the characters have for each other. Ida's curse is worsening and requiring more elixirs in her magic to contain, and she reveals that if she runs out of magic completely, then she's stuck as a monster forever. Refusing to allow that to happen, Luz decides to borrow Emperor Belos' healing hat while Hexside takes a field trip to his castle, only to fall into Lilith's clutches, who's been given a come back with Ida or don't come back at all ultimatum from Belos. I figures Luz is the perfect mate.
She was part of the coven,
and
and
with Ida having the upper hand, proving that she ultimately is the stronger witch.
And why were you so easy to curse?
Aha!
But before Ida can process this, she has to use her remaining magic to rescue Luz, thus trapping her in the Owl Beast form, and she's all set to be petrified at the Conformatorium. With the second episode making for her rescue, yeah, these episodes are definitely tense ones, not just with Ida's luck finally running out and her set to be petrified, but we also get probably the most epic showdown between these two squabbling sisters in the series thus far, not just physically, but also with their interactions with one another, especially when topped off with that shocking twist. But Luz also gets to demonstrate some ass-kicking when she goes up against Belos, when we see just how cruel he really is for the first time. But the bigger strength of these two episodes come from their heart, really showcasing how much these characters love one another. Just in the beginning, we have Luz going out of her way to save Ida from eternity as an Owl Beast, and just when it looks like Willow and Gus are going to tell her off for stealing from their beloved Emperor, it turns out they're behind her all the way with helping Ida. Not to mention Ida giving herself up for Luz's sake, which leads to one of the sweetest interactions these two have had in the series.
I don't regret anything. I lived freely and I got to meet you.
But we're a family. Us weirdos have to stick together, remember?
You have a family already. Go back to them.
I love you, Ida.
I know, me too.
I love you too, kiddo.
But of course, Luz won't abandon family, and neither will Lilith, who reveals the sad truth behind cursing her own sister. As we saw in Them's the Breaks Kids, Ida and Lilith were pretty close as kids, but both wanted a spot in Emperor Belos' coven, but there was only one left, and they must have a witch's duel to compete for it. Knowing Ida would beat her for sure, Lilith cursed her with what she thought was a spell that would weaken her powers for just one day, but when the time for battle came...
I refuse to battle my sister.
I've decided the covens aren't really my style. Hey, don't forget me when you're a big shot, sis.
Whoopsie!
Oh!
And she reveals that she's been trying to
should have done
capture
that
Ida
afterwards.
because Belos had promised to lift her curse. Only to learn that Belos is an effing liar who just wanted to make an example of Ida of how wild witches are dealt with on the Boiling Isles. Which, I'm honestly kind of embarrassed I didn't suspect earlier. Yeah, I actually believe Belos would help public enemy number 1 of Bonesborough. What's easily the most heartfelt moment of this episode is Luz sacrificing her portal to the human realm in exchange for Belos sparing Ida, instead just stripping her of her powers. But what would Belos want with that portal? Well, anyway,
you'll
if
learn
Luz
later.
can't have that
3
portal
has more.
home, then he can't either. And just for the super sweet finale...
With this spell declared, let the pain be shared.
Yep, Lilith is now sharing her sister's fate of being cursed and powerless. That, I feel, more or less makes up for what she did.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even remotely on
Small
par with the
step,
season
but what are you
2
gonna
finale or series finale, which we'll go into in a little bit of a spoiler. It's still an extremely rush-inducing, but more importantly heartfelt finale to the first chapter of this saga, leading into the even more exciting journey of Luz trying to find the way home with a pair of ruby slippers. Or some Titan's blood, more accurately.
Yeah, again, you'll learn more.
Number
Next up,
3. Understanding Willow / Hollow Mind.
Another
I'll
two-parter.
admit right off the bat that this one is a bit more of a cheat since this isn't a two-part story, but both episodes have almost the exact same basic premise, namely of Luz and another character going into a character's mind, seeing their past memories and experiences, and in the process uncovers a big plot twist regarding certain characters, all while Ida, King, and Hooty provide some comic relief. And I feel both episodes are on par with each other, so consider it a 2-for-1 deal. In Understanding Willow, it's naturally Willow whose mind Luz and Amity have to restore after Amity burns her face of what she thinks is just a harmless past photo of her and Willow as little kids together for publicity reasons, which sets fire to the other photos that turn out to be her actual memories. Yeah, kind of a fantastical version of Fantastic Voyage. And in Hollow Mind, it's Luz and Hunter, who's Belos' mistreated right-hand man, who gets sent into Emperor Belos' mind after one of their struggles together goes haywire. The atmospheres in both episodes are great, with both mindscapes really matching their individual. Willow's mindscape is a beautiful forest filled with, well, willow trees. Or at least it usually is, except when her memories are being literally set ablaze. And Belos is just as elegant and regal as he is, or at least the part that's composed of what he tells the public. Yeah, his real mindscape is a lot more perverted and reveals that he hasn't been totally truthful about how dangerous wild witches are, or how much he has the Boiling Isle's best interests at heart.
No one ever said being a witch hunter was easy.
Yep, keep killing everybody.
Willow's memories, needless to say, are a lot more pleasant, especially most of those with Amity. Yeah, something I don't believe I've really gone into detail with so far is that Amity and Willow used to be best friends, but Willow's been pretty reserved on why they stopped their friendship. And that's honestly a surprise because these memories show that these two seemed almost inseparable, and the inner Willow reveals that Amity out of nowhere decided that she was too weak and cut off ties, leading the latter to feel quite a bit of betrayal and resentment towards the former. And so has the inner Willow, who's determined to destroy every single memory of her friendship with Amity from the mind. Yeah, another interesting thing about this episode is Willow and Belos' inner selves. Willow's is uncharacteristically violent and monster-like, while Belos' is uncharacteristically sweet and childlike. This, of course, turns out to represent the anger and resentment towards Amity that the former was having, and the sneaky manipulation the latter was showing everyone else. And it turns out what they thought was his inner self was just the palisman he'd been devouring for years because, well, we'll discuss that in a bit.
Yeah.
But despite being some of the heaviest episodes in the show, they are getting helped by some pretty good comic relief from Ida, King, and Hooty.
How's that for interesting? There's levels to me, kid. Levels, I say.
Why won't she answer?
Yeah, she is not super reliable.
I know these antics probably seem very out of place, but they honestly aren't and do serve as nice breathers. And of course, there's probably the two biggest plot twists in the whole series. With Amity, we learned that her breaking off her friendship with Willow wasn't just a forced-in, somewhat cliched storytelling trope.
Blights only associate with the strongest of witchlings.
Sever your ties with Willow, and if you don't,
then we will.
We'll make sure the girl is never admitted into Hexside.
That's right. Amity platonically loved Willow enough to be her enemy for her to have a chance as a successful witch. But you think that's a crazy twist? What about learning Belos is actually a witch hunter himself? But why would a witch themselves be a witch hunter?
Please, do me a kindness and call me by my real name.
Philip.
Can't. You're Philip Whittabane, aren't you?
Yep. Philip was Belos the whole time. He never left.
Who's still alive after 500 years by consuming the souls of palismen. And on top of that, we learned that this big event that the series has been building up called the Day of Unity, which is supposed to just eliminate all wild magic and bring paradise to the Boiling Isles, is actually going to essentially be the apocalypse. But needs the Collector to be activated, whom Luz had helped Philip meet in the past.
Oops.
Uh-oh. Oh yeah, and Hunter's actually not Belos' first right-hand man. More accurately, he's one of many clones of someone that Belos/Philip was close to that we'll learn about later on. And the reason Belos has been such a prick to him is to keep him in line to prevent him from turning on him like the other clones, or more accurately, Grimwalkers did. Hunter has a moderate existential crisis from this. Talk about two bizarre plot
I'd probably panic too.
And by both featuring more or less the exact same crazy premise of exploring someone's mind, I'm calling a tie for third place with these two episodes.
Fair enough. Oh,
Number
speaking of
two.
the apocalypse, coming up.
The final 3 episodes of Season 2.
Plot Horizon?
Yeah, I know, but the 3 final episodes of Season 2 are just so good, I couldn't possibly settle for just one. So after coming back from what they thought was King's family, but instead turned out to be a gang of Titan Hunters, which, yeah, is what King is, and that happens to be the most powerful being in existence. Well, anyway, the Day of Unity is approaching, and Lilith and Ida try to act like they have this epic plan to save the day, when in actuality, they got nothing. Until Reigns decides to finally embrace his ex again, and let them join his resistance called
The Covens Against the Throne, aka the Cats.
Titan, help us.
Pretty much everyone's reaction when this piece of nightmare fuel came out. So basically, Bellos' plan is to have all the Covenant heads stand in one marked place when the spell is activated during an eclipse, and when the spell is cast on them, it will spread to everyone with that Coven mark, or sigil as they call it. So they decide to have Ida pose as Reigns, and as she's currently powerless, this will mess up the spell. But of course, there's some setbacks. So yeah, there's just so much to talk about with these 3 gems. Only problem is, I don't quite know where to start. How about with the heartfelt stuff? It's pretty sweet how Ida doesn't have the heart to say to Luz that she has no idea how to stop the draining spell and that they're all dead ducks, and convinces her that she's got this big elaborate scheme to save the day. And this, of course, leads to a brief rift between them when Luz overhears Ida secretly asking Reigns to make sure she and King are taken to safety, since this seems to her like Ida's underestimating her as a defenseless little kid. I know that the misunderstanding scenario is usually pretty obnoxious, but I actually think it does work pretty well here. Ida wants to keep Luz safe because there literally is no plan, but Luz thinks she's being completely betrayed. Plus, it is over pretty quickly. Plus, when Amity and her siblings are grounded for their attempted sabotage, Luz rescues them, promising they'll have a regular slice of life date when all this crazy shit is over, and the two have their first frickin' kiss!
Oh, crikey. I can't believe I just did that. I can't believe I just said that.
Who cares? It's freaking adorable.
Oh, just embrace it, you
too.
too.
There's Reigns and Ida finally setting aside their differences and continuing their relationship, and it's clear they're both worried sick about each other with this whole deal. Right? And King being adamant on how they're all going to survive and be fine. But now let's talk about the shocking moments. Okay, so from what you've heard, Amity's mom sounds like a real bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, she blackmailed her daughter into breaking off her friendship with Willow, got Willow, Gus, and Luz temporarily expelled because they were distracting Amity from her true calling, tried to have Luz literally killed for a demonstration of her new product, and almost broke her promise to let them back into school for Amity not destroying her life's work. Yeah, she's a really abusive mom. She kind of reminds me of Victoria Tennant's take on Corinne in Flowers in the Attic. So get this. When her slightly less asshole husband discovers the Day of Unity is actually a genocide of all magical life and warns her, she reveals she freaking knew the entire time and went along with it because Bells had promised to spare her and her family and make them royalty in the new world he was creating.
There you go, making that face. This is why I don't tell you things.
This is too much, even for you.
The fact that she was stupid enough to believe him is beside the point, because it proves that she's even more heartless than we could have imagined.
Yeah, she was willing to last genocide to get ahead.
Spirit, right?
Jesus
well, that
Christ.
doesn't last long, as she tries to kill her husband and daughter when they try to thwart her. And of course, there's Bellos himself. So the Collector is essentially the second most powerful being after the Titan, but strapped as a black shadow spirit confined to a mirror. But Bellos has promised to release him provided the draining spell works, but of course backstabs him, since his intent is to destroy all magical beings. That didn't shock me in the slightest, and I'm sure it didn't shock you, but what is a shock is when his underappreciated guard Kikimora asks to be Bellos' new right-hand guard now that she's brought Hunter to him, who's actually Luz disguised as Hunter, and just listen to his response.
Have you as my right hand? I'd sooner cut off my whole arm.
But I just want to help.
You want to help? Go find a hole to wither away in.
You're an inhuman monster!
That's an understatement, Grandpa Joe. What also interests me is his interactions with Luz. He tries to justify his actions to her, saying he just wants to save her and humankind from the evil of witches, as convinced that she's been brainwashed just like someone else he knew that we'll discuss later, and tries to basically say, screw witchkind and come back with me to the human realm, away from this evil.
You're such a hypocrite. You talk big about protecting humanity, but after everything you've done, you're barely human yourself.
But after he tries to petrify her, she's able to put a sigil on him, making him vulnerable to the draining spell as well, which is honestly just as disturbing as possible for a TVY7 show. Too bad only the Collector can call it off, whom King thankfully helps rescue in exchange for being his new playmate. Yeah, the Collector is actually a young kid, which we'll discuss in a bit, but is able to neutralize Bellows and stop the draining spell, but in the process of playtime, knocks loose King, Amity, Gus, and Willow and Hunter through the portal to the human realm, but not before King thanking Luz for being a great big sister, and the season ends with the draining spell thwarted and Luz home at last, but now her friends are trapped in her world. What a finale. Only one other finale can possibly top it. And the #1 episode, or rather episodes of Owl House are the final 3 episodes of the show. These are not only the greatest episodes of the series, but honestly the best things ever to come out of Disney in general, in my opinion, and really makes me wish that Disney today would devote as much time to its writing with movies as they do with television. So back where we left off, Luz is home, but now her friends are trapped in her world. Camilla's overjoyed to finally be reunited with her daughter and is more than happy to take her friends in while they try to get home and spend the next few months getting a taste of human culture and trying to find a way to build a new portal door, which has little to no progress seeing how they have none of the necessary ingredients in the human world. But with some Nancy Drew work, they succeed. But not without Bellows returning for vengeance with some casualties, or at least one, and they finally get back to find the Collector has turned almost the entire population into marionettes for playtime, and they got talk sense to him before Bellows starts pulling the strings with his manipulation. Oh, and one more thing. Still blaming herself for everything that's happened, Luz decides she's never returning to the demon realm once this whole mess is tidied up. But Camilla's not so sure she wants this anymore. So yeah, this sounds like an incredible setup, doesn't it? And you bet your ass it is.
Yep.
But the only downside is, I once again have no clue where to begin with its awesomeness. So, how about the visuals? Everything in these finales just looks so grand and epic. Even in the first episode that takes place completely in the human realm really is a marvel for the eyes thanks to some gorgeous lighting and shading. But the third episode is definitely the most visually stunning, dare I say, on par with Disney's Fantasia. There's also the music. Just in the first episode, we get a freaking awesome version of the show's main theme as the gang's trying to find a way back to the demon realm and adjusting to human life.
Wrong way. Thank you.
Or how about when they're doing some detective work to find some Titan's blood in the town, which they need for the portal?
County Zoo? Are you sure that's a good idea?
Seriously, if Lightyear, Wish, or Elemental had these composers, they all probably would have won Best Animated Feature on that factor alone. But what really makes these episodes the best of this series, and honestly the best Disney works ever in my opinion, is the humor, emotion, and heart. Actually, the humor is a bit downplayed with the more serious story, but the episodes do know when some comic relief is needed to lighten things up, and what they offer is pretty funny.
And somewhere along the way, I went from being Matholomew to Man-Tholomew.
Man-Tholomew? I don't want to work on that.
It's also delightfully hilarious to see Odelia be reduced to basically the Collector's unpaid maid after all the terrible things she did. But the bigger strength comes from the emotional stuff, mostly from Hunter and Luz. Hunter's afraid his new friends won't accept him anymore when they find out he's actually the clone of a cruel witch hunter. Oh yeah, we finally learned the full story of Philip here.
Yeah,
so basically, he and his brother Caleb were witch hunters in the Puritan era, but Caleb fell in love with a witch from the demon realm who's very heavily implied to be Ida's ancestor and went back with her there. Philip followed them to rescue his brother, but like Camilla, was pretty pissed to find out that he had voluntarily chosen to stay in the demon realm, and killed him in spite, thus leading to his 500-year plot to wipe out all life in the demon realm. So yeah, he's determined to keep the others from finding this out about him, which, yeah, what does that remind you of? So it's kind of a cruel irony that he ends up being possessed by another cruel witch hunter, namely Bellows, and thus, well, does give his friends damn good reason to fear him. Plus, making him kill his palisman Flapjack purely out of cruelty, yeah, Bellows is a real dick. And like said before, there's Luz maturely deciding it's best not to return to the demon realm, given it was her fault Bellows met the Collector. Even when her friends find this out and of course forgive her immediately, just like they accept Hunter right away despite his disturbing origin, she still loves them enough to stay away from them after this for their own well-being. But Camilla finds out about this, and now that she sees how happy Luz is here, she's like, no, people screw up sometimes. I have a lot. Really shows how much Camilla's grown since Luz last saw her in the human realm. This all leads to a really crazy scene where the Collector possesses her friends, chewing her out for causing all this. even if it is pretty predictable what's going on here, it's still a pretty intense scene.
You've been the real villain this whole time. Listen, I have to take you down.
Everyone helped you get back to your mom. Meanwhile, because of you, I'll never see my dad again.
Guys.
Jeez, I thought the mind games of Grom were cool. And of course, Luz being reunited with Ida and King is just as heartwarming as you'd probably expect. And after a typical Disney fake-out death with Luz, man, the series had largely avoided cliches up to now. I'll give it some slack. She meets the soul of the actual Titan, who's King's frickin' dad, who gives Luz his powers to stop Belos, and this leads to a frickin' awesome final showdown between the two. This alone is the best action scene in all Disney history. And Luz's expression when he pathetically attempts to convince her his actions were because he was brainwashed is just priceless. And the day is saved, the puppets are returned to normal, Ida and King meet Camilla for the first time, and while King never gets to meet his dad, he does pass along the perfect message for Luz to give him.
I love you. Bread pun.
It's all topped off with an epilogue showing that just before Luz is about to leave for college 4 years later,
University
the
of Wild
residents of the Boiling Isles throw Luz a long overdue quinceañera, which is a girl's 15th birthday in Hispanic culture, to make up for the fact that she spent her last several birthdays helping them repair the Boiling Isles. Well, they don't get it completely right, but that also just makes it all the more meaningful. Now, aren't you all glad that Lucy didn't choose to stay in Madagascar's stupid Chosen One simulation? Because the artificial respect and love his puppets would have shown him would never equate to the love and respect from everyone on the Boiling Isles that she earned by proving she was special and the one to save the Boiling Isles from an ancient evil on her own. Really shows that all good things come to those who wait. Like Hilda, it sucks that the show's over, but it's really the perfect ending one could ask for. Only one thing really left to say.
1, 2, 3. Bye!
Hey!
Most video game
Yeah, honestly, you gotta love it. You know, they really played to their strengths on this series, and, well, you gotta love it. And I think I actually still remember when they actually did make jokes that we're never gonna get the 3rd season, are we? Or something. Like, sometimes Disney only cancels after 2. They were lucky to even get the 3rd. At least that's what I remember, but... So, yeah, there you go. Owl House, let me know what you guys think. Honestly, those last 3 episodes really brought everything home, and you gotta love it. Till next time, bye!